Thank you. Bye. Yes, sir. You're off. Okay. Yes, sir. Bye. Okay.
Okay, it's live.
Yeah, I was going to look up Glenn and see what he said. I am working in Pataskala till 5. Unless I can leave a few minutes early, I will likely miss the start of the committee meeting. So he should make it to council. Can y'all hear me? Am I still on? No, I'm on.
You're good.
Okay. So Sherry, what date do I write down for the bank statement?
It's titled Bank Report and it's November 30th. Yep, I'm gonna email it right now.
Okay. Hi, Paul.
Look at those mugs. We're live, aren't we?
Yep.
Happy Monday. Don't look so smug, Kaylee. You made it through another day.
Hey. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I'll call the committee meeting to order, and council needs to pick a president pro tem for tonight, please.
I say Roger Moore.
I would second that.
Yes. You're on mute, Roger.
Yeah, I am. Daggone it.
Oh, shoot.
I will make it painless. I'll help you.
All right, someone's gonna have to hold my hand, but we'll try it.
Okay, I'll give you one tip real quick. When you start asking for the reports, just kind of go down the minutes and kind of follow that order. And I'll help you with the reading of the ordinances and stuff.
Okay.
So now you got to take over this meeting.
Yeah. Thanks. All right, we'll start with the mayor's report. Welcome, everyone.
Hey, you're doing great already, Roger.
Thanks, Mark.
Like I always say, happy Monday, everyone. We made it through another week. We're almost into 2021. I heard a good comment today that COVID turns 21 next year, so look out. Couple things over the last couple weeks that I've seen. Christmas magic and lights at the fairgrounds, a light show. I want to commend D. Woodward Wells on the light show. One night only, about 1,000 cars, and they raised just under $9,000 for firefighters for toys. Definitely a great cause, and just want to thank the fair board and the families, the organizations that set lights up. Really excited for next year and what we can do as a community. Speaking on that as well, Coates for Coshocton, Roger Moore, the superintendent of the Coshocton Opportunity School, saw that there was about 100 coats hung on trees downtown, and just wanted to commend the kids at the Opportunity School and thank them for just their community outreach as a whole. Means a lot. It's going to keep people warm. Thinking of others instead of yourself is a pretty big deal, and I think that's what we do well in our community, and really appreciate the different organizations. Forgot to mention Christmas Castle, 54,000. I don't know what the last count was. It like went nuts at the end. Just to see that kind of outreach just encourages me to be a part of this, and I really enjoy seeing the help from others. COVID continues. Actually, I just got out of a health board meeting, and just continues. It's not crazy wild here, but it's not going in the opposite direction. Within the city, currently, right now, we have 64 active positive cases within just the city of Coshocton. We have 340 people recovered. That number is for the city of Coshocton. So just for the city of Coshocton, not for the county as a whole. I always look at the percentile number, cases per capita, and we're at 83 or 84 out of 88 counties. So I definitely, we're not the highest, we're not the worst, but one person sick or one person dead is one person sick or one person dead too many. So I think that's another thing over the holidays. I want people to err and caution and don't have huge gatherings. I don't know what more we can say. Social distance, mask up, step up, mask up, and just be smart. So I think 95% of our population does that, and the other 5%, basically, like any other thing we deal with in our world, we have that 5% that just wants to ruin it for the other 95%. So I don't want to say thank you 5%. I want to say thank you to the 95% of the people who are out doing what they need to do. So definitely it's still, even with the vaccine, it's going to take time. And we just need people to cooperate and do what they need to do until we're through this. And I'm going to be excited as everyone else to get through this. So want to mention Tiffany Swaggart is here tonight. Paul Bratton with MFM's here. Tiffany's going to talk about what is going on with MFM, and I'm a business person, so I've directed my people and the people who surround me that any business deals, anything that we need to attract or retain businesses to our area, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. If we can't return on investment tomorrow, it doesn't matter. If we can return on investment in 5 years, we're good. If we can return on 10 years, I want to create an atmosphere of business retainment and business attraction. And I think she will talk on kind of what's going on with MFM, and want to welcome Tiffany and Paul Bratton. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. And it doesn't seem like this year is coming to an end, but it is. And just want to wish everyone a safe and happy Merry Christmas, happy holidays, whatever you want to say in your household or your world. I respect whatever you want to worship or celebrate or whatever. So just be happy. I was going to say another word after that, and everyone knows what I was going to say. Just be happy. Let's get along. So with that, I turn it back over to Mr. Roger Moore.
Mark, we want to let Tiffany give a presentation at this point, so we make sure we have time to get through whatever she needs to talk to us about.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We can give her the floor.
Tiffany, it's yours.
There we go. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Are you also able to see the PowerPoint that I have pulled up here?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for having me on this evening, and welcome Paul Bratton. Paul, I was trying to find the true words to describe your title there at MFM, and I'm not sure that I can get through that in enough time, but I believe that I've landed on fulfillment manager, tech support, jack of all trades, really, for MFM building products here in Coshocton. So he's joined us as well. And at the end of this presentation, you guys will have the opportunity to ask him a few questions regarding this discussion also. So I wanted to back up a little bit and talk to you guys more specifically about enterprise zones and how we can utilize those as an economic development tool. Obviously, you're putting the dots together right now as to what I'm going to be asking as we reach the end of this presentation. Enterprise zones are designated areas of land in which businesses can receive tax incentives in the form of tax exemptions on eligible new investments. The key word there is going to be eligible new investments as we move through this. There we go. Okay. So this is the Ohio Enterprise Zone Program. So there's some specific criteria that we actually have to work through as we do this. But again, it's an economic development tool that's administered by municipalities and county governments, and it provides real and personal property tax exemptions to businesses that are making new investments here in Ohio. Enterprise zones are designated areas of land, and I'll show you a map here in a few minutes, in which businesses can receive tax incentives in the form of tax exemptions, or what we're going to call abatements, on those eligible new investments. So new construction, new purchases of property. The Enterprise Zone Program can provide tax exemptions for a portion of the value of the new or real personal property investment when the personal property is still taxable. And it also can be used in conjunction with a project that includes job retention and creation. Existing land values and existing building values are not eligible, except for in very, very rare circumstances in which they call tier 2 type of incentives. Local communities may offer tax incentives for non-projects that are establishing or expanding operations in the state of Ohio. You may be asking, in your mind, I know that we can do retail, but that's actually called CRA, or Community Reinvestment Area incentives. So enterprise zone is specific to non-commercial type of operations. And see here, this is the map. This is going to actually show you the areas of the county that are potentially incentivized. This is ran through the state and approved essentially by local governments, and then it's kind of hosted there by the state website. So you can see actually here in Coshocton County, there's multiple areas that are considered for enterprise zone agreements. The Coshocton Port Authority does serve as the enterprise zone manager or administrator of the program. All inquiries, applications, monitoring, and reporting are conducted here locally. And successful applications are then provided to the Ohio Development Services Agency for final review and eligibility approval. That's going to be an important next step here. Annual review is conducted by the local tax incentive review council. We do that every year, typically right around the mid-March area. And previously approved examples would be those of McWayne Pools, Kraft Foods, and Annan. Our most recent one was 2014. That's why I'm kind of giving this overview now. So why is this an important economic development tool, and how is it that we come to the conclusion that this is essentially something that we need to utilize? Number one, it's important to note that each and every enterprise zone agreement should be reviewed case by case. It needs to be considered with multiple factors, such as new capital investment, what that number may be, total retained capital. So if they're already an existing business, what is that capital right now, and how are we benefiting from that? Job retention numbers, job creation, and the associated payroll that goes with that. It's also really important, though, to understand the downstream effects of that existing business as well. So that would be the existing tax base, whether it be through property, income, even sales tax. If that existing business has a corporate giving structure that really is beneficial to the community. And it's important to note, too, that this tool can be paired with additional state, regional, and local incentives that can assist in securing that new or additional, and sometimes that retains tax base. I do think because these are handled on more of a case-by-case scenario, it really is important to weigh the pros and the cons, especially knowing who your audience is as well. So what if we approve this enterprise zone incentive that I'm bringing to you? So, those outcomes are going to be essentially that the company and the employees feel wanted, they feel appreciated and substantial here in our community. To me, I think that's certainly number one. Number two is retaining that existing tax base, truly understanding what that is and how that impacts our community. And then also securing that new tax base for future gains or wealth too in our community. Retain the existing employees' tax base. This is that downstream contribution that we're talking about, creating the new tax base for the additional employees that are brought on to a new company. Gain opportunities to capture additional investment. So once they're here, the chances of maybe another expansion in the next 10 or 15 years certainly exist as well. That also may mean that we might be able to attract additional opportunities through supply chain or local contractors that are gaining wealth through construction projects. And then also the sales tax that comes along with that. And it's also really important to create that environment of business growth support. It's kind of what Mayor Mills was talking about there in the beginning and how we approach that. So what's the worst case scenario? What if I come to you with an enterprise zone and you guys decide that that's not something that you would like to approve? Number one, we may lose that new opportunity. These are certainly things that are competition factors. There's other communities that are also looking out to attract those new jobs, those new investments. So we may lose that. We also may lose the existing tax base to that competing location. They may decide that, we don't feel like we're appreciated here and we're going to shut the doors and we're going to move someplace else. We may lose the existing employees then that are associated with that business. That's something that certainly we're no stranger to in the past, as we've experienced that in the last few decades. They may move to neighboring communities or maybe even out to another state. We may end up with another vacant property here in the community that we've got to figure out what we're going to do with and how we're going to revitalize that. And then, of course, we really risk losing the positive momentum that has been created here recently. So I won't go down through this completely, but I'm sure that all of you understand the benefit to having MFM building products here in our community. Where that's located, of course, on Orange Street. MFM Building Products, though, it was founded locally here in 1961 by Robert Simpson, and they're a construction industry, and their wealth of knowledge, expertise in the manufacturing of waterproof and weather barrier products. Wonderful thing about that right there is that that's not impacted necessarily by COVID, right? People still need roofs on their homes. They still need to make sure that they're safe and secure in their property. In 2017, the company became an employee-owned company, or an ESOP. And essentially that means that those employees that are working there on site, they have a portion of that. They're working towards ownership in their own wealth. MFM Building Product, they manufacture the entire envelope for weather barrier and accessory products. They also are kind of recognized as an industry leader, where only the top 10% of those suppliers are recognized and get these prestigious awards. And MFM is right up in there. So we definitely want to retain them here in our community. This is a very long list. I did kind of push back a little bit on the company and say, as I'm approaching you guys and I'm asking you guys to consider incentives for future expansion, tell me how outside of just normal taxation, you're a contributor to our community in other ways. What's your corporate giving structure? What does that look like? And boy, did I get a long list of things that they contribute to on a regular basis. And then, of course, most recently, I noted that the Roscoe Village candle lighting that was done virtually this year, they were also a sponsor of that as well. So let's get to the meat and potatoes kind of this discussion and what we're looking at tonight. We have an opportunity to be a part of something incredible here in Coshocton, and that's that MFM is ready to grow. I do want to say before I kind of lead into what this looks like, that this is in consideration for them. It's important to note that all of those puzzle pieces, those jigsaw puzzle pieces, need to fit right for them to secure this investment here locally. And really in 2018, we started communicating with Paul and Tony at MFM, talking about what the next few years looked like for them. And in 2018, of course, they did have a strong plan for growth. It was very exciting. We were able to take that to the Jobs Ohio level at that time. We went as far as actually to go ahead and get an offer letter on the table for some incentives. And then the next step really would have been coming to you to ask for additional support in the form of local incentives as well. And just really some rethought, restructuring. In all honesty, maybe probably a good thing because no one had the crystal ball in front of them regarding COVID and what that looked like at the time. But they did back away from that plan at that time. Here we are, 2020, nearing the end, and we have been working with them again on what these next investments look like. There's two phases to this investment. The first one's laid out here, and that's $2.3 million investment in building construction. Obviously you've been by the site, you've seen that they've been very responsible in planning, that they've got some acreage there that they are able to expand on, which is fantastic, especially here in the city of Coshocton. And they're ready to build. So $2.3 million investment in phase one. That's essentially going to be the warehousing, a new building for warehousing site. Additionally, there's going to be $430,000 investment in new machinery and equipment. And there's going to have to be the move of some electric infrastructure that's fairly costly. So we're looking at $103,000 there in phase one. That's going to total $2.6 million in investment just in phase one. Okay. 7 new full-time jobs with the associated payroll of $329,000 and 63 retained jobs. Now, it's important that I tell you here at this point that this truly was a retention project. MFM, while local here, and they have a board of directors that oversees them locally as well, they also have a parent company that's located in Cleveland, Ohio, that's also making investment decisions. And they also have like near 20 sister companies as well. And those sister companies are located all over the United States. One of their biggest customers is located in the Gulf Coast, that panhandle there of Florida, that's subject to severe weather and hurricanes. And so we're in competition for this incentive. So when I say jobs retained, anytime money is leaving our community and going elsewhere for expansion, we truly risk losing those jobs altogether. Unfortunately, we've seen it in the past, and we want to stop that from happening now. So that's phase one. And while we were discussing phase one, I approached them with, I really felt very strongly about being able to recommend a 75% tax abatement for 10 years. And as we were discussing those options, they did investigate further into phase two. Phase two is bringing an entire new line here to Coshocton. So this would be the third line there. That's an additional investment for $610,000. You've got 78,000 then in renovation for new offices and research and development labs. You've got 200,000 in demo. Some other things that are going to be needed there as far as site prep. One of those includes a stormwater system with the EPA guidance that the city has for the programming. And then the big kick here is $4.5 million in that new production line. So that's two very large investments here that are phased. Along with phase two, we've got 14 new jobs. Those are full-time jobs. Of course, benefits. These guys are all eligible for the ESOP program, and that associated new payroll is $658,000. So this is currently what we're considering. We've been working with them again over the last year, essentially took this information to Jobs Ohio. And of course, we're now on a different program year with Jobs Ohio. There's a new president there as well. And I think it's important to note too that Jobs Ohio programming hasn't decreased for Coshocton. It's just that they have opened new programming that could really be beneficial to us as well. And when you're doing that and you're changing budgets to adjust to new programming, maybe not the full amount was available. And these two phases were incentivized essentially then we would have been at $275,000. There is a gap there of $125,000 that was on the table back in 2018 that's no longer available. Certainly that was a big consideration for MFM as they went to their parent company. That plan was there and in place in 18. It changed. Here's 2020, and now we're short $125,000 going into this decision. And so we really felt the need to bring out all the stops. And through some conversation, kind of looked at what it meant if we did 12 years of an incentive at 100%, and that does fill the gap that we need. Additionally, spoke with Max in how we can investigate really maybe incentivizing the water and sewer tap fees to make us more competitive in this process by looking at a 50% reduction on those fees. Also, we're investigating the building department or the building permit. We're not sure about that yet. There's some legality things that we'll be talking to Mr. Skelton about here soon. But those are the things that we really felt we needed to roll out to try to bridge that gap and make sure that we're successful in getting this new investment here in Coshocton. So moving on, again, why do we need to incentivize this? The number one thing is that this, just because they're here doesn't mean that that expansion is going to happen here. Again, there's competition for us in Florida for the warehouse. There's competition for the Alabama market because truthfully, they can just get their product closer to market. It eliminates that transportation cost for them or reduces it drastically. Again, so that's why we need to kind of make sure that we're bringing out our best stuff here. Also, we're not just, we're risking losing potentially another manufacturer. We have to look at the worst case scenario here because of what Coshocton's been through in the past. So worst case scenario is they make an investment in another state right now that has a business friendly market that is locally incentivizing things. And 10 years down the road, maybe it's 5 years down the road, the writing's on the wall for us. I don't think that that's anything that we're willing to risk at this point. We also, of course, that's just in general, we risk losing greater population, right? It's not just one person that we lose, it's an entire family that we lose, and then the next generation essentially as well. And our goal should be to increase that population, not lose it. And so moving on here, just by retaining MFM, we're retaining a stable manufacturing operation in an industry that's continuously growing. These guys have nearly tripled their business in a few short years. That's a company that we want here. That looks very positive for us in the next 10 or 15 years. Ultimately, it's 21 new jobs, 21 new opportunities for wealth here. Ultimately, that means greater spending, whether that's through property tax, sales tax, income tax. We're going to see that, even though I'm asking for a 10-year or 12-year abatement at this point. And it just ultimately shows local support and appreciation to MFM and to their employees. And the family of those employees that still reside here as well. So ultimately our recommendation, and again, this is really for discussion, we're looking more for the form of like a verbal type of support here tonight. There is some paperwork steps that we're gonna have to go through, and we'll get to that in the next slide. But what I'm asking you to consider is essentially if they are to complete expansion project number 1 and number 2 here, so we get the benefit of all of that expansion, that the Port Authority is comfortable recommending 100% abatement for 12 years. Again, that does not impact at all what you're currently getting. That is not incentivized, so that dollar amount remains the same and will continue to be the same. This is basically just delaying that investment dollar until the 12-year period is up. This also helps us make up that $125,000 difference that was so important. And it allows us to retain the current tax base. So in 2019, those taxes for MFM were slightly over 38,000. They have 13 parcels here in the city of Coshocton. Of course, the associated income tax that's also coming along with all of those employees that are working right here in the city. If the property tax on the new construction, so 3 million is just the capital investment, okay? We could maybe say that that has the potential to double. It's really, really hard at this point to try to give any type of approximate on the value of that because the property is still there. But in talking to Mr. Reese and talking to Mr. Bratton, we've looked at this in the case of should your property taxes double, here's the benefit to you. Ultimately, these recommendations must be approved by the city of Coshocton, by the Coshocton City School Board. We'll be moving on and talking to them on Thursday evening. And then ultimately go before the commissioners as well as part of the Tax Incentive Review Council before it would move on to the state. So other incentives that they have received by packaging basically this deal, they've gotten $275,000 worth of reimbursable grants from Jobs Ohio. That's pretty much in line with what we're seeing in the last 2 years from Jobs Ohio as far as what their investment total is and their new job creation total is as well. They have received one letter offer. There were some technical issues with that letter, and so we did send that back to Jobs Ohio with a request that it be changed. Again, that was technical, more of legal type of things that just didn't quite line up right. We do have word that we should be getting that new offer letter this Friday. So things are definitely progressing in the right direction for this. Again, we're asking also for the consideration of the 50% reduction on the water and sewer tap fees for the new construction. And then really we'll investigate whether or not we're able to do that with a building permit. And so that'll be work that we do here in the next few weeks. And then also the Coshocton Port Authority has offered to review options regarding the tax saving structure on construction materials. There are some benefits to that for very, very large investments. This one may be riding on the fence as to whether or not the legal fees associated with doing this and creating a lease structure, this temporary, makes sense in this case, but we are looking into that also for MFM. The frequently asked questions, I think the number one question that is always addressed is, are we losing money or are we giving that money away that we should be getting? Really, completely to the contrary, we're not. Really, you're gaining dollars, even though the full tax value isn't going to be paid until the abatement period ends, which is 12 years. But ultimately, you've secured that investment here so that you're going to gain that in the future. Otherwise, you may have lost that. It may have went someplace else, or you may not have obtained it at all. During the period of abatement, you're also collecting existing tax base. So you're not losing MFM's current base, you're still collecting that. You're also collecting the income tax and the additional new jobs that are created, as well as any utility fees that are associated with the new construction. Also those retained employees are going to continue to live, work, play, spend money here in Coshocton County. And thus those employees are paying property taxes with their homes that they own here, their income tax, they're shopping here at our local stores. These employee spouses are likely employed in Coshocton as well. So again, it's not just losing one, it's losing a family. Many of these employees also contribute to other agencies and organizations. They're very community minded as well. So, what does this look like to our community? If you are to approve this abatement, how are your constituents going to feel about that? I'd like to believe that the greater majority, and I do believe this, is going to be really happy that our local manufacturing operation is staying here, that they're supported, they were kept here. So many of our constituents have lost jobs. They've been personally impacted. I can speak to that myself, whether it be themselves or their family. They would want to know that you've done all that you could do to keep this business here. And I think we could all say that we wish we maybe would have had those opportunities in the past. In the case of the MFM current workforce, there is 69 employees right now. So they've already started making steps towards that phase 1 potentially. There's 32 that reside here in the city of Coshocton. There's 33 that live outside of city limits, but they are inside the county limits. And there's only 4 that reside outside the county line. I do think that that's important. They currently also have 5 temporary employees as well. So next steps with this is, Thursday we actually meet with the school board. Certainly the school board is the one that receives the majority of the dollars for the property tax. And so we're prepared to basically do this presentation with them on Thursday. We're going to complete the draft enterprise zone agreement and get that dispersed for review this week by legal. And then we need formal approval for council, school board, the commissioners. At the end of this, it goes to the Ohio Development Services Agency. And then following the approval, it is important to note that it is subject to monitoring. So every year we're looking at this. We're looking to see what their progress is towards construction, how many jobs have been created, and what the associated payroll is. And we do that through that Tax Incentive Review Council in March. And then those reports are sent to the state annually. Should there be something going on outside of the realms of something like a global pandemic, we do have the ability to kind of claw back some of those incentives if need be. I'm certainly confident that there's not going to be a need for that. And we're just really excited to be able to end 2020 with something so positive on the table tonight. I did think it was important to bring Paul Bratton here tonight so that you guys had the opportunity to ask him any questions that you might have. I can try to anticipate many, however, not all. I guess I would start by saying, Paul, is there anything that you would like to add? Or council members, do you have any questions or comments regarding the presentation tonight?
I would like to go ahead and add at this point, we are an ESOP company, okay? So, and like Tiffany did say, these employees are owners of this company. They take great pride in what they manufacture. And so being an ESOP company has, really opened my eyes. I've been with the company almost 36 years. So, wow, I wish they would have had it 20 years ago. It's a very good program, okay? These employees, they receive anywhere from 25 to 30% of their pay in stock options for the company. Now, this is not publicly traded. This is privately traded within our 20 companies, okay? So every company does great. Every employee does great, okay? They've never had a down year. And they went fully ESOP, I believe, in the early 2000, around 2003, I think. Don't hold me to that. But it's a great opportunity, not only for Coshocton, but for the employees of MFM and, and living in the city and the county of Coshocton. The longevity of the employees that we currently have, now, that's where they spend their money, so. That's all I have right now.
So Tiffany, what you need out of us tonight are our thoughts on whether we would consider approving the abatement.
Yeah, I think if you guys are able to give me an idea of whether or not we should move forward with this enterprise zone draft agreement so that I can get that to Mr. Skelton for review, I think that is kind of what we're looking for. Ultimately, it's going to take action in the form of an ordinance to formally get it passed. But this at least gives Mr. Bratton, Mr. Reese, and their board of directors kind of the assurance that we're working in the right direction, that you are okay with that 100% 12-year number. I think that those are the factors that are the most important in tonight's discussion.
Okay, council, What are your thoughts?
Roger, can I ask a few questions?
Sure.
Tiffany, it's been a few years since I've looked at the enterprise zone and tax abatement law, but my understanding is that unless there is an agreement with the Coshocton City Schools, the city is required to make them whole for any of the tax abatement that they lose out on as far as real estate taxes. Is that still the law?
No, it is not. I think there is a threshold in which that needs to be considered, but essentially that it's not the case. They kind of did a pilot agreement essentially in which that was utilized from time to time. Unfortunately, the effects of that really weren't positive, and then they kind of realized the enterprise zone wasn't working the way that it was intended, essentially. And so that's not a part of the requirement anymore.
So if this were to be passed, eventually the city would lose out on some real estate taxes, as would the city schools, as would the county, but we would all share in that sacrifice.
Correct. So essentially, and if you don't mind me kind of correcting a word, you're not necessarily losing out. I think that you're securing the investment at this point, and then the benefits are delayed in coming to you. I think that that's probably the right way to cast that. In the meantime, of course, you're still gaining other forms of dollars through income tax and sales tax as well. But ultimately, that property tax is going to be delayed for the 12-year period. And that is correct. The school is ultimately the one that has the majority of that delay. I believe it's in the form of 63% of that property tax. So if you're looking at that $37,000 number, you're still getting that annually. Should this double the assessed tax value there of the property, that $37,000 annually is going to be divided then accordingly. And that's essentially what's going to be delayed until the 12 years is up.
Okay, and Mr. Bratton, if I'm doing my math correct, it looks like the estimate for the new positions that would be created is approximately $47,000 per employee.
That would be correct. And of course, that number does not include the stock options that they receive.
And that brought me to my next question. Based on your current employees and the earnings that we would be keeping in the city, that's based upon approximately $64,000 per employee, if I did my math right.
For the stock, for holding the stock options as well.
Are the stock options taxed? Do you know?
That I don't know. That will be taxed once it's drawn out. Yes.
But as far as municipal income tax, whatever portion of an employee's pay is in the form of stock options, that's not taxed at the time that those options are granted.
That is correct.
And is those stock options included within the $47,000 estimate per employee, or would those be in addition to that?
I'm sorry, the stock would be in addition to the 47. Would be
Okay.
added on to that, yes.
And I think probably what you're trying to get at is, are you paying a livable wage, right? And I would say confidently, MFM is one of the better employers here in Coshocton County regarding wages for their employees.
Yeah, I was just really trying to give council all the facts and.
So I don't mean to interrupt you. So we've been into this ESOP for right at about 2.5 years. Okay. So I was going to say probably on the average, it's probably each employee on the average, probably at 2.5 years is probably right at that $60,000 mark in stocks.
Okay. I mean, obviously, Tiffany, we would need to see the enterprise zone agreement. Before I would be able to make recommendations, but at this point, I think you've answered all my questions.
Excellent. We have a template kind of agreement with the state as well, and I'm going to go through and make sure all of the proper fields are edited and then disperse that accordingly so that you guys can have plenty of time to review it.
All right, I think I'm just going to go through the Zoom screens here and seek council's input. Chad, you're up first. What's your thoughts on this?
I think I'm all for it. I don't want to see more jobs leaving Coshocton. I'd like to retain. I've lost my job. I know what it's like. The more we can retain, the more people that can come here and spend money. I'm all for it.
Kaylee.
I feel the same way as Chad. If we can keep businesses here, that's what we want to do as a community and keep families here. And I agree with you, Chad.
Michelle.
I also agree. I support them moving forward in the process.
Mike.
I'd certainly agree with keeping the jobs here, being an employee of Pretty Products for 35 years and seeing that business fall apart. But I'd also like to commend MFM for instituting this the ESOP program. It is a great program, and it actually saved me at the end of my tenure at Pretty Products, and it allowed me to open a business and stay in Coshocton. So I commend them for the ESOP program. It's a great program as far as I'm concerned, and it gives the employees incentive. And I'm just certainly for the whole program.
Thank you. And I would agree with all the other council members and their thinking. Tiffany, let us know down the road when we need to proceed, and keep Bobby in the loop.
I will do. Thank you guys so much for your support. We really appreciate it.
And I'd like to tell Mr. Bratton and the MFM family that we're very appreciative of your company, your employees, and your willingness to hear us out, and anything that the city administration can do for your organization. We're here to not only make it work for us, but to make it work for you guys as well.
Well, we truly do appreciate each and every one of your support. As you've seen in there, I mean, it started out as a family-owned business and everything, and our main goal is, to try, absolutely to try to keep everything right here. So I don't want to move.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Paul. We got about 10 minutes. We need to run through the rest of our committee information. So Max, you're up. Didn't mean to wake you.
No, I was wide awake. Just my 2 cents on MFM. Having worked closely with Paul and Tony. I think it's a great company. They do a lot of things for the community without any fanfare. And having been through the plant numerous times, always see a high level of morale with the workers. And we would be remiss if we let that company slip through our fingers. So need to be appreciative of everything MFM's done for us over the years, and what I'm sure they'll continue to do in the future. So I thank them as well. We're looking at finishing up the leaves by next week. We're pretty well done. We're working in zone 1 right now. That'll be it. And then one nice thing about the new truck, if somebody calls and says, hey, I got a pile, we can just run out there with one guy and pick that up. So it's worked out real well. I don't know if anybody's been down John Street in the last week, but we are making repairs to the concrete street out there. We contract William Albert Company to cut the bad concrete out. We began removing it today, and we're trying to make it so we can still get the emergency vehicles up and down the street while this is going on. We've ordered some heat blankets to put on top of the concrete. So hopefully we'll have that completed by Christmas, and John Street will be smooth. And then we'll look in the future at putting a couple 2 or 3 inch layer of asphalt on that and get out of the concrete on John Street business. One thing about it, we'll have a great base there. We're finishing up the drainage project on hydraulic. As Roger and I talked before the meeting, the first home on the Elm demo's finally complete. It does have seed and straw on it. Of course, we'll have to see how the seed comes in the spring, and the contractor has assured us he will come back and reseed if he needs to. He has started on the second house as well and hopes to have it complete by the end of the week. And the demo's in progress on the property at the corner of 6th and Locust. And I look for that to be done by the end of the week as well. And we're continuing our project to raise manholes on the newly paved roads. So thank everybody's patience on that. So, and that's all I have unless you guys have questions. So Westlake water line, I should give an update on that. We're still on tap to take that over by January 1 as far as supplying city water to the village of West Lafayette. And we'll be setting a new 90-foot McWane pole tomorrow at that water plant up there for the wireless communications with all the new water meters we're putting in. So that's kind of exciting. So that's all I got, Roger, unless somebody has questions.
Max, I just have one, the area at the corner of 5th and Walnut by the railroad tracks. I think we had a water break there at one time. Is that going to be addressed?
Yeah, we'll take care of that.
All right. Anybody else? Questions for Max?
I should tell you, Roger, that a bunch of signs did come in today. Kevin thinks that those street signs are in that batch. We also got, just for council's knowledge, we purchased 3 or 4 of the radar detection speed signs, the ones that, pick up your speed and say you're traveling 50 mile an hour in a 25 type of deal. So we'll be using them throughout the city as well. So,
hey, Max.
Mike had a question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Mike. I got a question on over here on 2nd Street and Bridge Street. We hauled the dirt in, and I seen a little John Deere front loader over there fooling around here last week. And left. What are they doing? They started moving a little bit of dirt, and then they were gone. I've had people question me about what's happening there.
Well, I mean, the winter got ahead. I mean, obviously, we're not going to plant any grass now. It's going to be too late. So, I mean, the dirt's there. Put some grass in there.
Yeah, but I just wonder, they moved a little dirt, but they stopped.
And I don't have an answer for you, Mike, on why they stopped.
Okay.
Randy's gone down to work on it, but we have cut back those guys' hours just as a cost saving method going into the year. I think they're down to 18 hours a week, the rec guys. So
sure. Okay. That's who's working on that then.
Yeah.
Randy. Okay. All right. That answers my question. We're good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Max. Sharon.
Yes, sir.
Hello. The only thing really I wanted to touch on for committee meeting was the appropriation requests that I had talked to you guys about for the Park District to refund their money back to them that they donated to us from their levy proceeds for 2020. They had sent a request to us to help with the CARES Act, and we were unable to help them. The county did reimburse them for some of their, supplies in response to COVID. But as you know, the majority of their loss is revenue. And as we all know, the CARES Act money could not be used for revenue replacement. So I was just trying to think of different ways that we might be able to help them. And I just thought, why not return to them their donation that they made to us this year? So it's $22,750. Through the course of time, since they passed that levy, and I believe it was in 13, and we started receiving money in 14, they have donated to us. It's not in the ballot language. They just said they would do it. And they have stuck with their word to always, send that money to us 2 times a year as they receive it. But, to date, we have received $170,152. And I just feel like the least we can do to help them, because if you pull their financial statements, last year they brought in like $229,000, almost $230,000 for the admissions for the aquatic center. Well, we all know that was closed this year. Excuse me. So that's revenue that they're never going to make up. So I think the very least we could do is to refund that money back to them. And that's in that appropriation journal or ordinance. And it went into the 401 capital improvement fund, so it could come right back out of there. And if you agree to it, just at the time of the council, in the council meeting, As long as I think if it could just be noted in the minutes that it is a refund or return of their donation, we're absolutely fine with that. That will, meet snuff with the state auditors and so forth. But I hope you would support that. I think it's, like I said, the very least that we could do for them to help them get by through till the first of the year and start to get some revenue in.
Council's thoughts?
I'm good with it. I think it's a great idea.
Kaylee?
Yes, I agree. Same.
Michelle, your thoughts?
Yep, I fully support.
Mike?
Yes, I support that.
Bob, if this is just noted in the minutes, does not require a vote, is that correct?
That's really a decision for Sherry to make. If she thinks it's fine with the state auditors and she doesn't have a problem with it, I certainly don't. Legally, that's really not my decision because I don't think there is a legal decision here. It's really just a matter of whether or not it passes muster with the state auditor.
And
So if she's happy with it, I'm happy.
Yeah, and I have, reached out to them, and as long as it's with the money having gone into the capital improvement fund, with this being worth us returning that money, that's where we need to return it from, is because that's where that money was originally received from. So if obviously I have to have you do the appropriations so I can write the check, but it's just simply returning the money. I'll probably have to do some stuff financially so that revenue, it's just like it never even existed. When it comes time to, it's always on our books, but when it comes to on the financial statements, I think our gap converter, our conversion team, they'll reduce our revenue, that $22,000. It'll be like we've never received it. Okay.
I think Cherry was trying to get your attention.
Too, but you're muted, Cherry.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, I think everybody's aware, I am on the park board, so I've tried to not voice a direct opinion on this. That's why I'm seeking the opinion of the rest of the council members. I want to make sure everyone is aware of that. And Sherry's exactly right. If this is something the city decides to do, I'm sure the park board surely appreciates it. Not only not being able to open the pool, but we could not open the pavilion for large events, proms, wedding receptions, and that was also a financial loss. So thank you. Anything else, Sherry?
No, I think Cherry did. She's probably got a question about the minutes.
Yeah.
Cherry?
So we will bring this up again in council so it can go in those minutes.
I will. Yeah.
Council need to do a formal vote then.
No, I don't think so. We'll just, in my statements, I can just make sure that I say that it's just the return of their money, and I think that would suffice. And then their approval will be through passing the appropriation ordinance.
Sherry, just for Roger's sake, in passing the appropriation ordinance, that would be, I think what you're saying is giving the money back to the park, correct?
Correct.
I want to avoid any type of conflict of interest on Roger's behalf. So
Roger-
in voting for that, he probably should be abstaining, which means we don't have the votes to pass that emergency tonight.
If, unless Glenn jumps on here at 7 o'clock.
It won't be enough.
We still want to get 5.
Well, the thing is, then we'll have to have a special meeting because there is other appropriation ordinance. There is other dollars on there for the health department.
So if we had a meeting in 2 weeks, that would be assuming we have enough to pass it in the other 2 readings at that point.
Yeah, or before.
I would much rather have a meeting before Christmas than after Christmas. Myself, the 21st instead of 28th. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but.
Works for me.
Yeah, 21st works for me.
Okay, what time?
5.
Well, you may have trouble getting Glenn there. I'm not sure, but
6. That
That's
work
fine.
for?
In the meeting on the 21st, will you also consider then the enterprise zone agreement approval?
I would say if you have that to us,
Mhm.
and then, Bobby's looked at it.
Okay. I'll get that out to you tomorrow.
Cherry, are you good with that?
Yeah, as long as I can have everything by Wednesday that I need to write the ordinance.
Okay. Quickly, Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Went to my follow-up today and ended up with 2 screws through my heel and a screw in the top of my foot with 2 staples in the top of my foot. So I'm in my first cast and I will be down at least until February.
All right. Well, good luck with that recovery.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Other than that,
Bob,
you guys
go
have
ahead.
got my report.
Okay. Bob?
Nothing that really needs to be talked tonight. After we finish the Elm Street properties, we'll move on to the other 2 properties that we're going to tear down, but we can talk about that some other time.
All right. Thank you. Anything out of committees? Okay. I think we will adjourn our committee meeting and reconvene here in about 2 minutes. Thank you.
I was just going to say, where did they all go for 2 minutes?
Bathroom break.
Maybe. I'm going to stay on for full council.
Just remember, you're still live.
Will do.
Yeah, 7 o'clock. We have everybody back with us. I see Chad, Mike, Michelle, Haley. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes, here.
Johnson,
Here.
Andrews,
Here.
Moore,
Here.
Turner,
Here.
Nischler. I have called in Tax Glenn. I have not gotten any response, and Ms. Salmon's asked to be excused tonight.
We have a motion to excuse Councilperson Salmons and Councilman Mischler.
I'll make a motion. We excuse their absences.
Second.
by Kaylee, second by Chad. Clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and please remain standing. Mr. Gross will lead us in a word of prayer.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stand for the invocation. Thank you, Lord, again for this opportunity to serve the city of Coshocton as each individual serves their own particular areas and wards. Lord, I pray for wisdom during this meeting. I would also pray for joy, blessing, and safety and prosperity for the city of Coshocton in the coming days. And I pray this in your name. Amen.
Everybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes? If so, entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion the minutes be approved.
Motion, Mr. Johnson.
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Turner. Clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Cherry, do we have any hearing of the public?
Not received anything.
Anyone else have anything as far as hearing of the public? All right, we'll move on. Mayor, anything for council tonight?
Hey, like I said during committee, just very proud of our community from the Christmas magic and lights at the fairgrounds to the coat drive from Coshocton Opportunity School, Christmas Castle to Salvation Army. It just shows what type of community we live in. Now, if we could just get people to wear masks and abide by COVID rules and not have huge gatherings, that would be a great gift for all of us. To slow the spread, because the spread of COVID is still out there. The vaccine is coming. First responders, frontline workers will be first to receive it. We will receive some locally, but don't have the number of how many vaccines we will get locally. Still in the works. Did hear though, we will possibly receive some locally by the end of this year. So the first round will be in-house at the hospital, has the facilities to hold the vaccine. With that said, a lot of motion, a lot of things turning in the town. Like Max had mentioned, the house is on Elm Street, the house on Locust Street, finishing leaf pickup. We did have an issue with our leaf machine. Had to get a new motor for it. It's fixed. It's out. Shoot us an email. Let us know, and we'll definitely get them picked up. The snow last week didn't help us. It's hard to pick up frozen leaves. Work on John Street with the concrete. Just wanted people to know, like Max said, that base, basically we're building a base for the possibility of paving in a couple of years. People speed down John Street now with the way it is, so it will probably become a raceway like once it gets smoothed out. So ask people to please slow down. Hydraulic, we are doing a drainage project over there. A lot of people don't realize that we basically have 6 people working at Public Works. So with COVID, having people off and having a limited crew, I want to thank the Public Works Department on what they do every day. I think people think we have like unlimited resources and 100 people working for us. That's not the case. So, really appreciate I don't think at any point in the city of Coshocton have we been out in December fixing roads. And that's just, big shout out to the public works guys. Ladder 301 is in the firehouse. It's in Hale Station. A lot more training. Chief Layton has been a joy to be around. He's like a kid on Christmas morning. He's got a big $1.3 million toy. It's not a toy. It's a great piece of equipment replacing a 35-year-old ladder truck. And that is the work of my predecessor, Max Crown. Sherry and Chief Layton probably has done the most work and stayed up late at night and got everything that he wanted. It is a beautiful truck. We probably won't have Santa on the new truck because the new truck will be away for the weekend getting more finishing touches done. They have to do more training. We will have Santa on a fire truck this Saturday from 1 to 3. I have no specific route. I just will promise the people Santa Claus will be on a fire truck. If I'm in the fire truck, anyone that knows me knows that I love the horn on the fire truck. So you won't miss Santa Claus, especially if I'm on the fire truck, because the horn, I got Max today. We were at the firehouse and Max, I said, look the front of this fire truck right here. And I opened the door up and I honked that horn, and it was the funniest thing that you ever saw. On the business side, we have the Civil Service Commission. Shane Pyle is the president of the Civil Service Commission here in the city of Coshocton. And I would like to say after 40 plus years, we have revised civil service rules. So I don't want to tell you how young I am, but actually it's been since I was born that we have updated the civil service rules. They are here. I would like you to approve them. And after 40 plus years, they are updated. So with that said, we also have updated our personnel policy manual. That hadn't been as long, so that was only 2015. So we really have kept that up to date compared to civil service rules. And want to thank everyone who had a hand in updating the policy manual. And we're working more in a forward direction to create continuity between non-bargaining employees, bargaining employees, ASME union, fire union. So we're definitely working towards a direction of getting a one cohesive benefits. I look today and everyone pays different amounts for health insurance. So at some point, I'd like to get that to where we're one unit, bargaining, non-bargaining, and move forward. So that's just something in the future that I'm working on. Tomorrow, we have a meeting with the administration in the village of West Lafayette to kind of lock down the transition of Coshocton supplying West Lafayette water. So hopefully we keep having 40-degree days and the interior lines and the meters get put on in West Lafayette. My timeline, I think what we're working towards is maybe spring to early summer to completely be transitioned and supplying water to the village of West Lafayette. And I look forward to working with the residents up there. And we have started the process of working on supplying water to Warsaw. So just want to thank everyone for a great year. Thanks for serving your community. Thanks, once again for the people to allowing me to serve our community. It's been a different year, but it's been a very great teacher. Life is a good teacher, and I think it's taught all of us a lot. And like everyone else, I could have done without a pandemic my first year. kind of made the learning curve a little more difficult, but it's, I hate, it's cliche, we're all in this together. I think that goes for a pandemic and not for a pandemic. So I, just appreciate the people that surround me, especially the health departments, the city and the county, and the job that they have done. And basically, we need to realize that we can make their job easier just by doing the things that we need to do, which we all know. And I'm not going to say them again, because I think if I say them again, like I'm going to jump out the window. No, not really. So if anyone has any questions, projects, anything we're working on, things are going. I appreciate Tiffany, since I just saw her, retaining business, making things happen. The year of the pandemic was challenging, but I think things still moved forward and we got things done, and I don't progress waited. So I wish Jeff a happy healing process, and challenge him to a race when he gets back. And just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, or whatever you believe in. I wish you a happy that. And with that, I'm done. Thank you, guys.
Any questions for the mayor? I'd just like to congratulate the mayor's office, Max, Mark, and anybody else involved in completing that West Lafayette Waterline project. That's a great project, and I think if we can expand the other direction, that'll even be greater. The Opportunity School did hang 96 coats, hats, gloves, scarves, socks last Monday on the trees downtown. I think those were all gone, all but one, by about 7:30 at night. And the other one was collected about 4:30 in the morning. I have a staff member goes out and runs at that point, so he informed me that it was also picked up. So the project was actually called Dress Up Main Street, and in talking to Ms. McKee, our paraprofessional who coordinated that project at the Opportunity School, she wants to make that an annual event. So we are planning on doing that again next year. Max.
Roger, I have nothing to add outside of what the mayor said and what I spoke on in committee. He covered most of it. I'd commend the Opportunity School as well. That project, without a lot of time and planning, I thought Ms. McKee and yourself and your students done a fantastic job with that. And a lot of good comments on social media about it. And how cool was it to provide needed warmth for people in the community that needed that. So I look forward to that being an ongoing project. That kind of signifies what Christmas is all about. So good job on that.
Thank you.
Any questions that you guys have? If you don't have any, I'll wish all of you a Merry Christmas as well. So,
Bob?
Cherry, has my law director report been distributed?
Yes, December the 8th.
Other than my written report, Roger, I have nothing else.
Thank you. Sherry?
Good evening. A couple things. To get to our normal monthly stuff, you have your November 30th statement of cash and the bank report for November 30th. Detailed check reports for November 12th, the 19th, and the 25th. And then there's your then and nows for the 12th and the 25th as well. If you have any questions, just let me know. If not, those need to be approved in the minutes.
Can I have a motion to approve the auditor's report in the minutes? Chad?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Michelle?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes. Hi, everybody.
Welcome, Glenn.
And
Long
then
day.
And then
Sure.
I also we had touched on it a little bit in the committee meeting, but for anybody just turning in now or tuning in now for the actual council meeting, I had discussed with council the park district, our park district had reached out to us for some CARES Act relief and some assistance. They had some expenses for response to COVID that the county was able to assist them with. Most of their loss has been due to the loss of revenue, admissions, and so forth, and camping. In the CARES Act relief money could not be used for revenue replacement. So really those county park districts, they're left out kind of in the cold on this for getting any assistance. So I posed to the council members and thought it might be nice if we could refund to them, return the money that they donated to us out of their levy proceeds for 2020, and it was $22,752. You know, as I said before, since 2014, we have received $170,152 from them, and we've put that money to good use. Don't get me wrong, we have. We've done a lot with that money, especially this year up at Hall Park, and a lot was spent up at Hall Park this year. But you know, they've lost out on, you know, $200 and some thousand of revenue this year by not even having the aquatic center open. So I think it's just a small gesture and a small way that we can help them, you know, with that revenue loss. If we can refund that we're going to return their donation to us. So that's on the ordinance number 6720. So I would appreciate your support for that, as I'm sure, you know, every park district board member will too.
Thank you, Sherry. Any questions for the auditor? Okay. Are there any additions, Sherry?
Before we get into legislation, you're doing a fantastic job, but we need to see if there are any standing or special committee reports.
All right. Are there any standing or special committee reports?
This is Glenn. Due to my late arrival, I don't know if the rules change was discussed.
No.
If anybody's had a chance to look at it, I would like to amend Rule F14 regarding the Safety Services and Safety Committee. Did everybody have a chance to read that?
Mhm.
Anybody have a chance to read that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any objections?
I know there was some follow-up from Chief Layton and also from Mr. Skelton. Bob, you want to address your proposal?
Well, my proposal was simply to strike out the last sentence because I didn't think it was necessary. The broadly stated first sentence, I think, takes care of the fact that council would oversee the sheriff's contract. So I really don't think it needs to be even noted in there. It doesn't hurt to do it, but I would just strike that sentence. As I'm not safety chairman, but as rules chairman, I have no issue with that.
I don't either.
Okay,
Right.
I don't think that's the instructions that I got when I mailed y'all out an updated copy. I just removed the part that said EMS and fire at the very end of it. So we want to update it to just strike the last sentence.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that all right, Glenn?
Yes, sir.
So do we need to add that to tonight's agenda?
Probably should add it to the agenda, but it's always just been an up and down vote. Didn't require an ordinance or anything.
Okay. So we take a vote on that now, Bob?
Why don't you do a motion to
Amend?
approve the amended council rules and then have a second and then vote on it. Then it'd be fine. Also move.
Glenn,
Also-
Chad, second. Jerry, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, legislation at first reading. Jerry, please read 60-20.
64-20. Oh,
Yes.
yep, we started at 64-20, an ordinance authorizing the service director to execute a grant agreement with Coshocton City School District for the purchase of desk shields in response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
You've heard the first reading of 64-20.
I make a motion to suspend the rules and give it a second reading.
I'll second.
Clerk, please, the second reading. No, we need to vote.
I'll call the roll. Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
Now, would you like for me to give it a second reading?
Yes, please.
And 64-20, an ordinance authorizing the service director to execute a grant agreement with Coshocton City School District for the purchase of desk shields in response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
You've heard the second reading of 64-20.
Mishler, I move to suspend the rules and give it a third reading.
I'll second. Gross.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
Clerk, please give a third reading to 64-20.
An ordinance authorizing the service director to execute a grant agreement with Coshocton City School District for the purchase of desk shields in response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
For the third reading of 64-20. Clerk, please call the roll to pass or not pass this ordinance.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
64-20 is passed. Clerk, please give a first reading to 65-20.
An ordinance to amend the City of Coshocton Civil Service Rules and Regulations.
You've heard the first reading of 65-20.
I make a motion, we suspend the rules and give it a second reading.
Ms. Kaylee.
I'll second.
Second, Michelle. Please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
Clerk, please give 65-20 a second reading.
An ordinance to amend the City of Coshocton Civil Service Rules and Regulations.
You've heard a second reading of 65-20.
Make a motion to suspend the rules and give it a third reading.
Mr. Johnson,
Second.
second, Mr. Mishler. Clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
Clerk, please give a third reading to 65-20.
An ordinance to amend the City of Coshocton Civil Service Rules and Regulations.
For the third reading of 65-20, how do you vote? Clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
65-20 is passed. Clerk, please give a first reading to 66-20.
Transfers,
For the first reading of 66-20.
I'd move to suspend the rules and give it a second reading.
Mr. Mishler, second. Mr. Johnson. Clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
Clerk, please give a second reading to 66-20.
Transfers,
I'll move we suspend the rules and give it a third reading.
I'll
Jill?
second.
Mr. Gross, Mike,
Yes.
clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
Clerk, please give a third reading of 66-20.
Transfers,
You've heard the third reading of 66-20. How do you vote? Please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
66-20 passes. Clerk, please read the first reading of 67-20.
Appropriations,
And with Glenn here, we do have what is necessary to move this forward. If council wishes.
Roger, I've given this some thought tonight because of the questions you've asked. I do not think it would be a conflict of interest for you to vote to move to suspend the rules and give it a second and third reading. I do think you should abstain on the final vote as to whether or not the ordinance should be approved.
Thank you for that interpretation. So you've heard the first reading of 67-20.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and give it a second reading.
Chad,
I will, I'll second.
Haley, clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
You've heard the second reading. For the first reading, please give a second reading to 66-20.
67-20 appropriations.
Appropriations.
I move we suspend the rules and give it a third reading.
Michelle, a second.
I'll second.
Chad.
John.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
You've heard a second reading of 67-20.
Shall I give it a third reading?
You can give it a third reading.
Appropriations,
Please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
All abstain.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
67-20 is approved. Clerk, please read legislation at second reading.
60-20, an ordinance to amend the City of Coshocton Personnel Policy Manual.
Heard the second reading of 60-20.
I apologize again for my late arrival. Should this go on the second and third reading tonight?
Yes,
Yeah.
please. If this is going to be the last meeting of the year, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and give it a third reading.
Kaylee? Chad seconds. Clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
Clerk, please give 60-20 a third reading.
An ordinance to amend the City of Coshocton Personnel Policy Manual.
For the third reading of 60-20, how should you vote? Clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
60-20 is approved. Cherry, whenever you're ready, please give a third reading to 58-20.
An ordinance to appropriate funds for current expenses and other expenditures for the City of Coshocton, State of Ohio for January 1, 2021 through December 31st, 2021.
For the third reading of 58-20, how do you vote? Please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
58-20 is approved. Clerk, give a third reading to 59-20.
An ordinance establishing the 2021 pay schedule for the Recreation Department and seasonal workers.
Heard the third reading of 59-20. How do you vote? Clerk, please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
59-20 is approved. There are no resolutions on our agenda tonight. Are there any communications from the administrative office or council?
I have one thing. I think a week ago, we received an email from Giovanna Ramsey and Lucy Malinky asking if any council members would be interested to join the Community Remembrance Coalition. I did respond back to them and say that I would represent the council members on that coalition. And basically the coalition is partners with community coalitions to memorialize victims of racial violence and foster meaningful dialogue about race. They're going to hold their first meeting virtually in January. They have representatives from the museum, United Way, and a couple local congregations. So I volunteered to be the representative for council on that. So.
Thank you.
Haley.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Kaylee, I would definitely want an invite to that as well.
Okay, great. Yep.
I think I may have skipped over new business. So is there any new business, Cherry? Anything you want to add or anyone else?
I need to add reports so they can be reflected in the minutes. Income tax was emailed November the 30th. The mayor's monthly report, December the 1st. Property code investigator, December the 2nd. And the law director was January the 8th.
Thank you. Those should be reflected in the minutes. Anyone else?
Jerry, are you receiving the Port Authority reports following our board meetings?
Not for a while. Mm-mm.
New employee, we'll send them your way.
Okay.
Thank you.
I do have one more question. Our next meeting is January the 11th. Do we want to start at 6 or 5:30? Since it's a new year, there might be extra to discuss. What is council's pleasure?
Council?
6.
6.
6.
Yeah.
We had talked about meeting next Monday, so we are not doing that. I know, Tiffany, did you need anything approved before the first of the year, or is that January 11th date okay with you?
I can let you guys know fairly quickly if we need to expedite it.
Okay.
Going into tonight, we assumed that it would be the 11th, and that was okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else?
One
Hey,
last
Roger,
time, I apologize for my late arrival. Work was unbelievably awful. The good news is I still have a job. And other than that, I might have missed various things earlier. Great, happy Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone.
You'll be fined appropriately for being late.
I don't doubt it.
I'll check the mailbox for the check. You did a great job, Roger.
Well, thank you.
I think
Yes,
you have
thank you,
a
Roger, for doing that.
career. I think you might have a promising career in that spot right there. So just saying.
Time to retire.
Yeah.
Okay, before we adjourn, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and say go Browns. Could I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
So moved.
Glenn made the motion, Chad second. Please call the roll.
Gross,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mishler.
Yes.
Thanks
All
for the
right.
support for the
Happy holidays,
park.
everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. See you,
Good job,
everyone.
Good job, Roger.
Thank you. I'll bill you.
Okay, great job.